Welcome back to the Collective Mic. My name is Joyce Tody, and today I am so excited to be sitting down with one of our original members, Elizabeth Delgado. Welcome.
Thank you, Joyce. It's so nice to be here.
And today we're talking about every season wealth, women in financial power, women having all of the skill set, the education they need around becoming really confident enough to be standing on their own 2 feet financially. I know I have a personal story about why I was so determined at a young age to make sure I had the means always for myself. And I guess I could share that now. I guess it would be relevant, right, in terms of sharing some personal stories. So when I was a very young girl, I think I've shared this with you before, but my audience hasn't heard it. When I was a very young girl, my mom was a single mother. And when we were about 7 years old, we went to the grocery store to get the basics in terms of like bread, milk, all the things we needed for the week. My mom only had credit cards with my father at the time, and they were in their separation phase, divorce phase. And she went to pay, and every single credit card declined. And then she also went to write a check, and of course they wouldn't take her check, knowing that every credit card declined. I was very young. I was very embarrassed. I didn't understand what was happening. Well, it ended up that day, we ended up leaving the grocery store without any food for the week. And I remember her holding my hand in the parking lot and her looking down at me, and she said, "Never depend on anyone or a man to help you financially ever in your life." And so people are always like, "Why does Joyce work so hard? She's insane. Like, what is going on?" Well, now everyone knows that I will never be financially dependent on anyone but myself. And I think I am very happy I learned that at a young age. But I think that there are a lot of women still out there that for some reason aren't in that same mindset, which is scary. And we're hearing a lot more about that. So we will get into your story now, but I wanted to share that maybe as a launching off point for us in our discussion.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you started with that, Joyce, because we very much believe that our money story, we all have one. And our money story starts sometimes when we're kids. Sometimes it's something that we've adopted from previous generations that's just been passed down. Inevitably, each and every one of us has experienced something that has made an impression on us. And whether we recognize it or not, we continue to live out cycles.
Sure.
And we get to decide if the money story that we learned growing up, if that's something that we want to continue to live out, or if we want to rewrite it like you did.
Sure. Are women more affected with the money story typically in terms of, I feel as though women are always talked about in terms of making sure that you can stand on your own 2 feet, making sure that you have financial security, making sure you're financially independent, regardless of who your husband is, regardless of who your father is, and really ensuring that, God forbid anything happened, you can survive.
Sure. Well, I think that for a long time, women felt so dependent, and that was, as a society, the norm, where women were very dependent on other people around them. And I'll share a little bit of my personal background. I have a few reasons why I was taught to be independent and learned to be independent, and it came from both my mother and my father. So my father's father, so my paternal grandfather was a politician in Colombia. And in Colombia.
Wow.
And unfortunately, he was murdered when my father was 18.
Wow.
My father also had a younger brother who was 16 at the time. And so my grandmother was left widowed at a very, very young age and with 2 boys that she was trying to raise.
Wow.
And so I have vivid memories of my father telling me to be an independent woman. He witnessed his mother.
Who wasn't financially independent.
Who was not financially aware, was not financially independent, who was shocked by a pretty substantial change in their lives. And she had to figure out how to then carry forward her family. And so that's when I look back on how my father constantly taught me and told me, you need to be able to count on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back on family history, I realize, well, there's some significant experiences that he witnessed as a man.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Watching his mother, whom he adored, struggle in a way that he would never want any other woman to struggle.
Interesting. So that's where yours was a little opposite, because you were encouraged, educated at a young age, since you could understand all of it, to be independent.
Well, it's a mixed bag.
Okay. So
it's always complicated.
So we'll get into that. So you co-founded Every Season Wealth?
Founded, yes.
Founded, yes, in 2001.
Well, so I started in this industry in 2001.
Right.
And then I founded Every Season Wealth in 2014.
Got it. Amazing. And what was so kind of tell us your story about coming to, and we'd love to hear your origin story in terms of even getting into the financial aspect industry, and then from there, from 2001 to 2014, and then where you saw the gap in 2014.
Yes. So I actually was thinking about this earlier today. I professionally have not had a lot of female mentors. And it's one of the reasons why I feel so strongly about passing the wisdom on. But I did have one. I had one female mentor who I worked with for a very short time before I launched into financial services. I worked at a bank for a very short time, and I had a boss named Laura. And I can't recall a specific conversation that we had, but I recall her believing in me.
That's all it takes.
And that was all it was, was I knew that she believed in me and that she had faith in me and that she was encouraging me to continue my experience and my education. And so when I made the shift to financial services in 2001, it was based on a hope and a dream. And I went from banking to the investment world and financial planning, and I joined a startup company. And back then, I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, you could take chances like this.
And I didn't know what it meant to join a startup company and what risks were associated. And this was 2001, so right before 9/11, right before the dot-com bubble bursted. There were some significant things happening in the economy, and all I saw was opportunity.
Sure.
And I will never forget what my boss and mentor told me at that time. When we went through some pretty significant economic downturns, I asked him, should I call the bank and see if they'll take me back?
Oh.
Because I didn't know that a startup company would survive. And he spoke words to me at this time that were words that I built my practice on. He said, Elizabeth, this is when people need us the most. We're not going anywhere.
Wow.
And so that was how my foundation was laid in 2001, was seeing that we were in the midst of some significant financial struggles, and that the purpose that we had was to bring stability and calm to a very chaotic season.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. But scary at the same time, because you didn't know exactly what you were doing. You just knew to stay.
Joyce, I was brand new in this career. I was a single mom at this time. Right. And
you had to make it work.
And I put one foot in front of the next, and I said, okay,
I'm going to learn.
We're going to figure this out. And that's what we did.
What I love about that is you believed in yourself. You had one mentor that believed in you, and you stuck with it for many, many years, from 2001 until 2014. And I continuously tell the audience and the young generation out there, there's no hack. There's no shortcut. And if you get really good at something and work at it for maybe more than a decade, less than a decade, then you finally build the courage up to do something really risky, which is coming up with Every Season Wealth.
Yes.
So at what point between 2001 and before launching Every Season Wealth did you gain the knowledge and courage, and how did you do that to say, I'm going to build something?
Well, hindsight's always 20/20. What I realize is that the entrepreneurial spirit is in my blood.
Yeah.
So I told you a little bit about my father's family in Colombia. So my mother is originally from Cuba. And my Cuban side of my family, they are all business owners. And when they decided to leave Cuba, one of the things that they experienced was that the government took everything from them, their business, their home, everything. Well, they eventually were able to immigrate, and they landed in New York. And what did they do? A year and a half later, they took out an SBA loan, and they started a new business.
Wow.
Which, to me, again,
unbelievable.
That is another level of courage that I have not experienced in my own life.
Yeah.
But to be in another country, not speaking the language, and deciding that they were going to continue on with their entrepreneurial spirit is just something that is constantly inspiring to me.
Not even knowing the culture yet, not knowing is this going to work? How is this going to work? But just betting on themselves.
Right.
And their work ethic, and them coming from Cuba and having everything stripped away and taken away.
Yes.
I think I take a lot from that in terms of once you've done it once, it's really easy to continue to do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
So from 2001 through 2014, having that entrepreneurial spirit just coursing through my veins, I would constantly look at the firm and the practice and say, well, I would do this differently. I would do this other way. And this is how I would do it if it was mine. And so it was a dream that was in my heart from very early on. And in 2014, I took that leap. And when I started at Every Season Wealth Partners, I wanted to make sure that what I was building with roots of faith. So I'm a woman of faith, and I wanted to bring that faith element to everything that I do. And so even the name Every Season Wealth Partners is based on Scripture.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. That's actually my next question. So you can definitely go into that.
Yes. And so there's Scripture in Ecclesiastes that talks about every season under the sun. There's a season for dancing. There's a season for mourning. There's a season for everything. And what I experience in financial planning and investment management is that we are walking through various seasons with our clients, and what a gift that is to us. And so that was the reason why when I knew that when I was going to go off on my own, that was what I wanted to be rooted in.
Sure.
And that is how I wanted to bring my own flavor to financial services. I think a lot of times
you don't see that a lot.
Right.
Right.
I think a lot of times people think about finances, and they think about numbers, and they think about, well, how much can I make, and what are my returns, and what are the tax strategies, and all of those things are important. But if you're not rooted in something, whatever that is,
right?
If you don't have some roots established, then you're just going to kind of flail around.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. Every Season Wealth, that is such a powerful name. Now we know why, because I was going to, it's always struck me in terms of loving the name of your company, and I always wanted to ask where it came from. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important, and it's in the Bible, so that's why it's so powerful, which says so much. So as a founder and principal wealth advisor that you are, what leadership lessons have shaped you the most while building your firm since 2014?
Well, you mentioned it earlier, is just that having the tenacity of just showing up and moving forward, regardless of what the circumstances are, or what is happening in the world, or what is happening in the industry, or what is happening in my own personal life. It is, just having that courage and tenacity to just keep moving forward. And I think, it's the belief too. It's believing in myself. It's believing in my team. It's believing in my clients, and knowing that synergistically, when we come together, that we can multiply. Yeah. That we're not meant to do any of this by ourselves.
No, definitely not.
I love my alone time, so don't get me wrong. So I certainly love, a little bit of isolation, but we are created to be in community. And so when we bring ourselves and we surround ourselves with people who have other skill sets, we then become much more powerful together.
Yeah. And walk us through kind of the not so glamorous side of entrepreneurship. So you have this great idea to launch a company, and to launch a very important company with a great name, and you behind it which is very strong. But then as you launch the company, what happens during that time? Because I think a lot of people don't talk enough about the struggle during those times, like the first 1 to 5 years, the first, 6 months, a year, all of the stumbling blocks we all as entrepreneurs find out very quickly, and we can only rely on ourselves at that point. So what were some of the hurdles? Because, a lot of the audience that I think we speak to are women who either want to take a leap out of corporate America, which corporate America is great. We love corporate America. I think there's a lot of great things that come out of corporate America that people learn to become a really great entrepreneur.
Yes.
So tell us kind of like the darker times of I always like to hear the not glamorous sides of entrepreneurship that our listeners kind of might take for granted sometimes, that there are dark times just like in anything.
Sure. Well, I will say that imposter syndrome is real.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know this is something that we've talked about before, and it's something that for me, it wasn't just when I was launching. It is a constant battle that I face where I have to ask myself, am I really meant to be doing this thing? Am I really equipped to do this thing? Am I really prepared to do this thing? And I come back to my faith in that, and I say, well, if a dream has been put into my heart, if I have this vision to live this out, then scared or not, I need to do it. And my therapist tells me, well, that's exposure therapy. So you're just facing your fears. And I'm like, okay, so I'm doing the hard thing, and that's a good thing. But I would say that especially early on, not only having the doubt and the question of, can I do this? Is this going to land? Are people going to want what I'm offering? Am I going to have clients? All of those questions and doubts. Even with all of that, and then it's the sleepless nights. Yeah. It's the time and the effort and the energy that goes into it. So, it is incredibly hard. And then I ask myself, well, what would I do if I wasn't doing this?
Yeah, sure.
What would I do differently? And I don't have an answer for that. So then that just tells me, well, I guess I must continue. Right. I must keep doing these things. So the sleepless nights, the questioning of my own abilities, that's, I think, the hardest part. And then I also feel that because I'm stewarding, right? I'm entrusted with my clients. I'm entrusted with my team members. And so I have a responsibility to them to show up and to show up well. And so it's like this constant measurement. Am I doing the right things? Am I doing enough? Am I prepared enough? And so I'll tell you what, it's a whole lot of prayer. It's a whole lot of prayer because I'm like, I cannot. Like there are a lot of things that I am incapable of doing. So I'm just going to ask for help because
that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we can trust betting on ourselves and being rooted in faith, of course, right? Faith is all we have at times, and being rooted in faith and prayer is extremely important in something, to your point, being rooted in something and having trust and faith, if not in the higher power, then in yourself.
Absolutely.
To really make sure that it works. But you talk a lot about your family of entrepreneurs, both immigrant parents, which is fascinating and awesome at the same time. And this whole background of your immigrant parents and your relationship with money and work ethic and building a business came from your parents, right? And came from you learning and watching everything they struggled with in coming over to the U.S. and even before, you would say?
Yeah, most definitely. There's a reason why people immigrate to another country, and so on my mother's side, a big part of that was the political climate, and my grandparents had a vision that they wanted something better for their family, and they took a leap of faith to do that. But it did not come without its struggles. They, like you mentioned earlier, were stripped of everything. So they literally left with the clothes that they were wearing. And thankfully, they were received with open arms, and they had family here, and they had lots of support to help them to establish themselves. But that didn't come easy.
No.
And so by the time I was born, my parents were raising me. I witnessed challenge. I witnessed struggles.
Yeah.
So some of my money story is, I remember, well, my money story is a little complicated because there was a moment in time where my mother was a single mom. And so my dad, for various reasons, was
Stepped
in and
out.
out. Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom working multiple jobs and thinking to myself, you know, I wanted to, we were doing back to school shopping and I wanted a certain pair of jeans and, you know, certain style, and that was not within the budget. I also have memories when my dad was with us of him coming home and emptying his pocket of change into one of those
water jugs.
Yeah, the jugs of water.
Yeah.
And he had a mark on it that as soon as we got to a certain line that we would take that to the bank.
Yeah.
And then from there, I would get a treat.
Okay.
So I had this idea of, if we saved, a treat was involved.
Right.
And then I also witnessed my mom's struggle. And so these two elements of my money story very much spoke into how the relationship that I developed with money and my level of drive and my desire to save well.
Yeah.
But also to work hard and to carry my family forward. And so it's, you know, when we talk about money stories, I think back on those times and I think just how impactful and from a positive and negative perspective that it can be. And I'm grateful that what it's given me is an ambitious spirit and a spirit to work hard and a spirit to save well.
Yeah, and we're going to transition into women and financial power. But what I do think is empowering for women to do more is talk about their money story.
Yes.
And I don't think we do it enough. I mean, I'm even to blame. I think the first time I ever shared it out loud was at one of the events we had last year. I don't know why I didn't speak about it. I don't know if it doesn't come up in conversation or it's taboo to talk about money, or because so many people ask, you know, why do I do the things I do when I don't necessarily need to do them? But it's this drive in me. And I also love to work. Like, I love the grind and I love the hustle. That soft life thing these kids are talking about. I'm not purposely pointing in that direction to one of your lovely ladies, but there's a generational thing that I'm finding that's coming up where our generation has done so much work to get a seat at the table, to work hard, to make something of ourselves, to become educated, to get the licenses, to get the degrees and all of these things. And we've got this generation coming up behind that they don't want to do any work anymore. There are some of them, and in the women I talk to on my podcast, I always ask, are you about the soft life? And they say, absolutely not. The soft life, what does that even mean? I can't even figure it out. It's a lot for me, and it gets me really riled up because we've done too much work for these women coming behind us now to not want to do anything.
Yes.
Do you find that?
More. You know, So I was very fortunate by the time my kids were, so I have my son, I mentioned, I had him and was a single mom for a while, and then I inherited my daughter through marriage. And so when I was raising my two kids, and I've recently remarried, so I've inherited 4 more kiddos.
Love that.
So I just
you collect kids.
Yes,
I heard you say
collect
that the other day. I love
children,
that.
and that's my favorite role in life. Absolutely. But when my first 2 were school age and, you know, involved in activities and that sort of thing, I was fortunate enough where I was able to make financial decisions so that I could send them to private school.
Sure.
That was a desire of mine, which required a whole lot of work, a lot of saving, and a lot of preparation for that. But I would think to myself, I'm chauffeuring these kids around in a nice car to their private school, to their music lessons and sporting events and that sort of thing. They must learn that this does not come
normal.
easy.
And it's not normal.
No, it's not normal.
It's not normal.
No. And so one of my missions was these kids, we did service events. So we would go to, whether it was the Rescue Mission or Shade Tree or you name it, we would go to local organizations to support. But then I also took them out of the country. And
Smart.
I wanted them to experience, I wanted them to see that there's other parts of the world, and which include places that our families are from.
Yeah.
And this is how people live.
Yes.
And so we need to have this awareness that that things don't come easy. And so that's first and foremost. And then secondly, so because of that, I guess I'll continue that thought. Because of that, I'm proud to say that my older kids who are now adults, they're hardworking adults.
Yeah, great.
And they are contributing to society.
Yes.
They're homeowners.
Wonderful.
They are doing the
Love.
things that we raised
Of
them
course.
up to do.
Hallelujah.
Which I just, yes.
Hallelujah.
And we must remember that easy times don't come from easy activity.
Right. None at all.
So the two don't match.
Right.
So if the scales of balance are tipped in one direction, then eventually things are going to topple over.
Sure. Yeah. One of the missions of CWL is helping women step into confidence and leadership, as you know. From your perspective, what do you think women still struggle with when it comes to money and financial decision making?
That's a biggie. So I love what you were saying earlier about the money story, and we are on a mission as a firm to really lean into the money story and making these conversations about finances not taboo.
Right.
We want to invite this conversation, and so we are creating a sisterhood because what's interesting, and this was not done intentionally, but what we are finding, and part of this is just a societal change, is that more and more of our clients who are onboarding with us are either women who are financially independent, just on their own, single women by choice or circumstance, or they're a family where the woman is the primary breadwinner.
Okay.
And so this is an interesting new wave of clients that are coming to our firm. And so we're leaning into that.
Sure.
And we're saying, okay, we need to fan this flame of women who want to be more involved in their financial picture, and also making a significant contribution financially to their families and their surroundings.
Sure.
And so with that, what we effort to do is create a space where we can talk very openly about financial wins so that we can cheer each other on, because we need sisters who believe in us.
Right.
And also to share financial woes where we're having struggles, and we can cheer each other on and tell each other like, hey, we've been there before and there's a way out of this. And where we can encourage each other and give each other ideas.
Right.
And so we've really leaned into this to create this space where we can come together in vulnerability and talk about financial topics and make it an okay conversation.
Right.
And I noticed that when women are together, we're comfortable with talking as long as the topic is approached.
Of course.
And so
I think women will talk about anything.
absolutely.
I mean,
as long as it's a safe space.
That's right, of course.
And they feel like they're going to be supported.
Yeah.
And so for us to create that supportive environment, we see that's encouraging those conversations.
Yeah. Is there what is the biggest financial mistake you're seeing women who've made since the inception of time that's not ever gone away, that you're seeing that for whatever reason, that generational stigma not break? Is there one that you would be able to pinpoint, or are there a few that women make more financial mistakes in our financial situations?
Yeah, I would say two things. The first is, you mentioned earlier, being rooted in something. And so what we find is that when there's a purpose behind anything that you do, whether it's saving or professional decisions or how you raise your family or whatever the case is, a goal, anything, if there's a purpose behind it and you understand what it is that you're working towards and why you're working towards it, then it sticks. Okay. Then progress can be made, habits can be created, and momentum can be built. But when there's this lack of clarity of why we're even doing this, then
what's the goal?
Yeah, then what are we doing and why are we doing it? And it's kind of like, well, I'll worry about that later mentality.
Right.
And that is a big mistake that I see a lot of women make, where we don't need to worry about that now. What we're doing is we're focusing on the trip that we're going to take, or we're focusing on the busy cycle of
life.
raising kids or
Yeah.
whatever the case is. So we're not going to worry about it now. We'll worry about it later. Well, guess what? Later creeps up on you very quickly.
Fast.
And so the idea of not wanting to face your situation can be a real challenge.
Mm.
And what I also find is that, I will jokingly say this only because I have dear friends who have said this to me, and we have joked about this, that a retirement plan cannot be marrying well.
No.
So we are not, that is not our financial plan.
We not.
No,
That's
can we not?
hysterical.
And so
Yeah.
it's a joke.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
I hear that joke all
Yeah.
the time. And so, going back to the level of independence,
Yeah.
it's like, even if you form a power couple, do you still want to participate in some level of productivity?
Right.
Yes, you do.
You do. Yes, you do.
And so to lean into the productivity that you are called to is important.
Right. If a woman is successful in her career, there's this new trend going on, right? So we've got this generation coming up who, and it's not necessarily a real estate question, but they're successful in their careers, right? They have their degrees, they don't have debt, they have enough money to put down on a house, and they're choosing not to, and they're choosing to go travel to Europe every summer, which is fantastic. But that doesn't necessarily help set up your future. So do you have any advice for women who would rather travel and not maybe put a down payment on a condo even, or something that has roots, to your point that we've been talking about, even in the climate we're in now? So I hope you don't take it as a real estate question, because Shelley Panzarella talks about this a lot, and Stephanie. Sure. But it's interesting, your take from the financial side. They've got this, they get a great bonus every year, and they take it and they go to Europe.
Absolutely. Well, I think life's all about balance,
Yeah.
right? It's enjoying the here and now and the life that we have and the gifts that we have been given, but also planning for the future. And whether that's buying a home or saving in a retirement fund or making sure you have an emergency fund or saving in other investment vehicles, it's important to think about the future. If all you're doing is one or the other, because I have clients on the flip side who won't travel and they
Right.
won't spend.
Right,
They are just
right.
saving
Yes.
for who knows
Catastrophic
what.
events.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, if those scales of balance are tipped, then that's not healthy either. So you can do both, but you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
And so perhaps you're not going to, take the high luxury trip
Sure.
that you want to. Maybe you'll still travel, but you'll be, you'll have a little bit of a budget there,
Yeah.
and you can save toward your future at the same
Right.
time.
Is real estate still, in your opinion, a really great, safe investment for people who are just starting out?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Home ownership and property ownership isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants that life. I have a client who loves to be nimble and loves to move around.
Great.
And so that is her lifestyle, and she does well for herself. She's an avid saver. She is thinking about her future, and she knows that she doesn't want to be tied to a particular area. So she's not a homeowner. So that's not wrong. That's her choice, and she is still saving.
Right.
And she's still being responsible. And I will say that most of my wealthiest clients own property.
Yeah, right.
And
real
so
estate has to be in the portfolio
absolutely,
somewhere.
it is one element of the
Of
portfolio.
the pie. Yeah. I think I know the answer because we've been talking about it so much, but what conversations about money do you wish women were having more openly? We've kind of been talking about it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think it starts with the money story.
Yeah.
And I think it continues to how is it showing up in your life today?
Yeah.
And what emotions come up when you're faced with a big bonus or a financial dilemma? What happens then? Who do you rely on? Who do you look to for advice? Who are you surrounding yourself with?
Yeah.
Because, there's a saying that goes, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
That's exactly right.
And so if you're surrounding yourself with people who are hopeful and positive and are charging forward, then chances are they're going to encourage you to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and keep moving.
Right.
So, I think it's a combination of those things.
Sure. Financial wisdom for high achieving women is the question segment next. For many of our listeners are entrepreneurs or executives. What are top 3 financial strategies for every high earning woman that they should prioritize? Because say if you're earning more than 6 figures as a single woman, which I think, most high achieving are, what are the priorities for them?
Yeah. Well, something that I find is that a lot of times when your income increases, so too do your expenses. And so, having the discipline, it's just like anything else. It's just like your exercise routine or whatever. It's all about discipline. And so paying yourself first and making sure that you have funds set aside in a what if fund, having your funds allocated for your travel and your fun time and that sort of thing, but also saving for the future. So I always recommend retirement funds. It's a great tax efficient way to save for your future. Whether it's if you qualify for a Roth or if you have a 401k through your employer, or if you are your own employer, you can implement a retirement plan for yourself. So you don't have to have employees to have a retirement plan.
Yeah.
But that's an easy way to make retirement contributions and take advantage of some tax benefits. But really, it's the element of just paying yourself first.
Yeah.
It's making sure that just like your mortgage or just like any other line item in your expenses, that you yourself are included in that and that is a high priority.
So when a woman experiences her first big career promotion, exit, a new business venture that's making a lot of money, what should they do first from a wealth perspective? Maybe they just inherited, a bunch of money as well. So I think, what are your thoughts on those conversations?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, hopefully they're working with an advisor, and if they're not, I would encourage them to.
Yes, of course.
and some of the things that we feel really strongly about is like we were talking before, is coming back to the why behind it, understanding an individual we have our own core values. We have our own reasons and the things that we value the most, and understanding how we operate. We actually came up with a concept that we're in the process of rolling out, and so you and your listeners will be some of the first to hear about this. But we came up with a concept that is a financial, it's a behavioral profile for finance.
Oh wow, okay.
And it helps you to identify what your financial archetypes are.
Oh, there's such a thing?
And there is such a thing. So you could be a steward or an aligner or an architect.
Oh, wow.
And so based on having some self-awareness and some understanding of how you view money and what are the things that are exciting to you or interesting, intriguing to you, or what, on the flip side, if you are in a state of uncertainty or chaos, what are the things that you would kind of lean to in an unhealthy state? And so it's all about awareness. It's about having an understanding of yourself and saying, okay, this is who I am and this is how I operate from a financial perspective, and let me be friends with those concepts.
Yeah.
And let me leverage that. And when I come into my more chaotic state, let me have awareness of that, and let me have people around me, an advisor or a team of advisors around me who can say, oh, this is starting to show up. Let's kind of identify where we are and redirect to your positive.
Oh, wow. And you're rolling that out in your firm?
We're in the process
Is
of
that
it.
something that's a practice in most firms?
I have not found that in any other firm.
Interesting.
No.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You see it in business. There's different archetypes that you can, take a test and figure out what type of leader you are, what type of follower you are, how you work well with others, who you work well best with. That's really cool. I didn't know there was a financial one. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, we're always trying to do new things. My team, we joke around because I usually come into our team meetings and I'm like, I have an idea. And they're like, oh boy,
no.
what now?
Hold on to your socks.
And so, I propose it as an experiment. I say, we're just going to do a little experiment and then we're going to test it out. There will be a hypothesis and a conclusion, and then we will decide if this is something we want to continue to do. But this started out as an experiment, and we soft launched it with a women's event last year, and it took off like wildfire.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so we are seeing that this is something that is not only helpful, but women are craving, people are craving.
Yeah.
And so it's just having that self-awareness, but also to befriend it, not fight against who you are and how you were made.
Sure. Advice for the next generation. So if you could sit down with your younger self at the beginning of your career in finance, what advice would you give her?
I would say, girl, you're doing great, first of all. Like I mentioned with my boss, Laura, just having the belief in self and having people around you who believe in you. Mm-hmm. So what I would say to my younger self is, I believe in you, and you're going to do great things. Yeah. And so any opportunity that I have to say to a younger female professional that I believe in you and I see greatness in you. And I tell my team all the time, I have team members who are very young, much younger than I am. Mm-hmm. And I used to be the baby, but not anymore.
Not anymore. Darn it.
And I tell them all the time, don't let your youth distract you from your greatness.
Right.
Just because you're young does not mean that you do not have greatness in you. We learn from youth too. Right. So bring your greatness to everything that you do, and don't shy away just because you have less experience or you have less tenure or you have fewer degrees or whatever the case is. You have greatness in you, bring it.
Yeah.
We all want to hear it.
We all do, yes. What do you hope the next generation of women understands about wealth and independence and building their own path?
Well, first of all, that it's achievable and attainable.
It's not scary.
It is not scary.
It's part of the process of growing up.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
Well, and, I think about the concept of abundance all the time. And the definition of abundance is having sufficient of anything, whether it's health, wellness, friendships, time, financial resources, whatever it is. And so if the desire is to have enough, to have sufficient, then we can't be afraid of it. We have to steward that, and we have to create it.
What does true wealth mean to you today?
Yeah, true wealth is freedom.
Yeah,
to me.
Sure.
It's the freedom to make my schedule. It's the freedom to decide what is my yes and what is my no. Mm-hmm. I have younger advisors who I get to mentor, and I tell them all the time that be careful what you say yes to, because what you say yes to will form a pattern of your future yeses. Yeah. And so you have to curate your time and curate your energy. And early on in my career, I said yes to a lot of things that should have been no's.
Right.
And now I have the wisdom to say that not everything should be a yes.
But you are where you are now.
Yes.
I think about that often, right? About like when we're in our 20s, when we're on the come up, and all of the things and all of the maybe bad decisions we made. But I do think that it led us here.
Yeah.
So I think
with some bumps and bruises.
Oh, yes, with bumps and bruises for sure. Well, today was amazing. I can't thank you enough. How do listeners find you? So there's probably a ton of listeners that I hope are out there that either share this with their daughter, their mother, their friend, their sister. But how do they find you if they've never thought about financial wealth management before?
Yes, thank you. Every Season Wealth Partners. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Our website is es-wealth.com. Our office is here locally, but we have clients all over the U.S. So we work virtually, but also love the community of Southern Nevada.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Collective Mic. And again, like I said, if you like this, please follow us and subscribe. Share it with someone that you love dearly, because this is really great information. We'll talk to you next time.